I recently noticed that there has been a new push to redefine what we as a community consider to be monster taming games, and label a majority of these games, the ones that focus on battling, as monster battlers. I've decided to make a video to point out the several flaws in the reasoning behind it, and how renaming the genre would not only undermine the efforts of the community to get out from underneath one game's giant shadow, obviously I'm talking about Pokemon, a move to redefine the genre would also just create a new era of hostility within the community. Keep in mind, Steam never even considered adding monster taming as a searchable tag after community members pushed for it. So yes, redefining the phrase now would only be a further step backward. Before I start, I would like to say that implying that the people who disagree with you are stupid or less intelligent is not only a childish attempt to win an argument, but it also shows a lack of skill in expressing a clear point that people can agree with. Now let's get into why redefining the phrase monster tamer would be a terrible idea. I've heard it stated that games that were called monster battlers lacked a core experience related to that of a coach or parent. It was stated that the player should help the creature survive because you are feeding it properly and there should be a goal for that creature's life, like winning a race for example. This already does not sound very different from a virtual pet game or pet simulator, a category that already exists in gaming. I don't want to hear pets don't compete, because dog shows exist and dog racing exists. Not to mention that if the main goal would be for the monster to win a race, couldn't that just be called a monster racer? But I'll continue so that I can make more clear points. For the people advocating to change how monster tamer is defined, it was stated that there should be a time that the player can set a monster free, meaning to be active without the direct guidance of the player. This would unfortunately lock an entire genre into an automated game system, which would hinder creativity. Not to mention the fact that it would create a much larger hurdle for entry-level game developers to create a game like that. Some people assume that all other players don't get a feeling of vicariousness through the gameplay mechanics of what they call monster battlers, just because they themselves personally don't get that experience. I've watched enough gameplay videos online to know that that is an inaccurate statement. It's been stated that games considered to be monster battlers don't provide the monsters with any independence. If a person wanted a monster to be more independent, couldn't they leave it in the wild and watch it where they are fully independent already? For example, animals that have successfully been tamed have proven this by following the direction of the person who tamed them. Another statement was that if players played what the speaker considered to be an actual monster tamer game, they probably hated it. If this statement is true, what would be the point in making those games the newly agreed standard for what an actual monster tamer game is? By that person's own logic, it would not change the amount of people that wanted to play those games or the demand for those games. Notice how I don't assume what the people who make these statements are thinking. That would be an incredibly arrogant thing to do. I heard claims that the games labeled as monster battler games lack consequences, but isn't losing money, losing the trust of your monster, or even your monster actually dying in those games, aren't all of those real consequences? As a matter of fact, if you look at the original games that have been called monster tamer games, pretty much all of them, if not most of them, would be what some people are calling monster battlers. Trying to change how the phrase monster tamer is used now, it would almost be like a person telling the people who play platformer games to change the name of their genre to something else like parkour games or jumping games, because they thought it was a more fitting phrase. If you take away the battling, racing, and thematic struggle of a monster taming game, you are left with a pet simulator where your pet is a monster and you simply take care of it like other virtual pet games. The monster taming genre and community as a whole is still in the shadow of one game. If we as a community continue to be hostile towards each other, that does not help anything at all. These are the points that I would like to present and make clear to the viewer. When I make my content, I'm not just thinking about myself, I'm thinking about all the indie developers who deserve a chance to shine and all the players who want to try different games. I'm showing the players what those games have to offer. If they're not interested, they can pick something else because there are so many games within the genre. Now, I haven't done this in a while, but here goes. Thank you all for watching and I hope you have a great day. If you enjoyed watching this video, be sure to subscribe and like and share. Find out what happens next time on the OFC.